Bethenny Frankel is one of the most successful people to ever come out of reality television. She turned a Real Housewives of New York salary into an $80 million skinny girl empire. She's a self-made mogul, a best-selling author, a podcast host, and lately, the self-appointed watchdog of the entire reality TV industry. She's smart, she's savvy, and she says the things nobody else will. But there's another side to Bethenny. A pattern of complaints that keeps surfacing, from small business owners who say she used them, to critics who question whether her big crusades are really about justice or about Bethenny. So today we're digging into the complaints about Bethenny Frankel that nobody really talks about. And I'm going to be fair, because she's genuinely accomplished, and some of these criticisms are more damning than others. Let's get into it. Let me start by being clear about what this is and isn't. Bethenny Frankel is not a villain, and she's not in some kind of downfall. She is thriving. This isn't a takedown of a struggling person. It's an honest look at the recurring criticisms that follow one of reality TV's most powerful figures. Because when someone builds an empire on being blunt and unfiltered, the way they treat people on the way up and the way down deserves scrutiny. So, let's go through the actual pattern. Let's start with the complaint that's genuinely the most damaging, because it's not a one-off. It's a pattern involving small business owners, and the most detailed example is the cake story. The owner of a bakery called Sugar High in Boca Raton came forward with an account that a lot of small business owners found painfully familiar. According to the owner, after she opened her Boca location, Bethenny's assistant reached out asking the bakery to make a huge custom cake for Bethenny's birthday party in Miami, and the owner said that Bethenny's team did what she called that classic, "Oh, we'll pay," but in the way where you know they don't mean it. So the bakery owner made a business decision. She took the gamble, provided the cake, reportedly a $4,000 custom cake, essentially for free, and asked for just one thing in return: please tag us if she posts it. And the team said, no guarantees. Now, here's what allegedly happened next. The owner said, the next day, Bethenny posted the cake everywhere. Stories, reels, carousels, posts, Daily Mail picked it up, Food God posted it, she tagged the venue, the photographer, the glam team, the videographer, everybody except us. The bakery only got tagged, she claimed, on the 5th slide of a carousel, and only after tons of people started asking where the cake was even from, and the owner said the part that hurt most wasn't losing the $4,000, it was the lack of a simple thank you. Now, that alone might just be one disgruntled vendor, but here's why it becomes a genuine pattern. Because another small business came forward with a strikingly similar story. The founder of a jewelry brand called Candy Lace Jewelry said she sent Bethenny pieces, and that Bethenny said she'd help promote them by naming the pieces on social media. But the founder claims Bethenny wore the jewelry, named other pieces she was wearing, and never credited the brand. And when the small business owner shared videos showing Bethenny wearing her pieces, she says she then received a not-so-good email from Bethenny's team. Two different small businesses, a bakery and a jeweler, both female-founded, both telling essentially the same story. They gave Bethenny product, they were promised or hoped for a simple credit, and they say they got used and then brushed off. And when you're someone like Bethenny, who has built a huge part of her public brand on championing women in business and being a self-made female entrepreneur, that's a genuinely bad look. It's the gap between the brand, "I'm a woman who lifts up other women in business," and the alleged behavior, treating small female founders as free labor. That contradiction is the heart of this complaint, and it's the one I think is most legitimate, because it happened more than once with the same fingerprints. The second complaint is about her reality reckoning, and this one is more debatable, because there's a genuinely noble version of it and a cynical version, and the truth is probably somewhere in between. Bethenny has positioned herself as the leader of a movement to reform the reality TV industry, pushing for better treatment of cast members, protection from exploitation, mental health support on set. And on its face, that's a genuinely good cause. Reality stars have historically been underpaid and, in many cases, genuinely mistreated. Bethenny using her platform and her financial independence to advocate for people who can't advocate for themselves is admirable. But here's the critique that follows it around. Bethenny is worth around $80 million. She got filthy rich off the exact system she's now crusading against. So some critics argue there's a self-serving element that being the loud face of a reckoning keeps Bethenny relevant, generates content for her podcast and social media, and positions her as a hero without much personal cost, since she's already got her money. And there was a moment that fed that skepticism. For weeks, reports claimed Bethenny was part of a big lawsuit against Bravo's parent company, NBC Universal. And then Bethenny clarified that she had not actually hired lawyers and was not suing. She said she'd directed wronged talent to legal representation and was fighting for systemic change. So she's leading the charge rhetorically, but she herself isn't taking the legal risk. Critics read that as Bethenny wanting the credit for the reckoning without being in the trenches of an actual lawsuit. Now, to be fair to her, you can genuinely advocate for change without personally suing, and pointing other people toward lawyers is a real contribution. But the optics of an 80 millionaire leading a reckoning she's not legally party to is exactly why some people question the motive. The third complaint is what I'd call the opinion on absolutely everything pattern. And this one is a double-edged sword. Because Bethenny has built her second act on being the reality world's loudest commentator. Something happens in the Bravo universe, or the wider culture, and within hours, Bethenny has a video breaking it down. And her fans love this. She's smart, she's blunt, and she often says what people are thinking. But critics argue it's become compulsive, and that she weighs in on things she admits she knows nothing about. The perfect example is the Amanda Batula and West Wilson situation from Summer House. When that scandal blew up, Bethenny jumped in with her take, while openly admitting, "I don't know who these people are." She literally gave a blind take on a situation involving people she couldn't identify. Now, her actual analysis was pretty sharp. She made smart points about how reality show friendships aren't real friendships, and how networks profit from manufactured drama. But there's something to the criticism that Bethenny will comment on anything for content, even when she has no actual knowledge of the situation. She weighed in on the Bachelorette contestants threatening to sue ABC. She's weighed in on political and social issues, including comments about trans children back in 2021 that drew significant backlash. The pattern is, Bethenny has a take on everything, delivers it with total confidence, and sometimes that confidence outruns her actual knowledge. The fourth complaint ties directly into that, the Bad Bunny Super Bowl mess, which showed what happens when the opinion on everything habit collides with a topic people care deeply about. When the Bad Bunny Super Bowl halftime show became a culture war flashpoint, Bethenny posted videos weighing in. And then, after backlash, she deleted them. And fans immediately called out the mixed messaging, gotten heat for it, and then quietly scrubbed it rather than standing by it or genuinely apologizing. This is a specific criticism that follows Bethenny, that she'll fire off a hot take, and when it doesn't land the way she wanted, she deletes and pivots rather than owning it. For someone whose entire brand is, "I say what I really think," getting caught deleting your real thoughts the moment they're unpopular is a genuine credibility problem. It makes the authenticity look calculated. The fifth complaint is about the litigation and the aggression of her business operation. Bethenny is famously litigious and famously tough in business. Now, some of this is genuinely admirable and even righteous. For instance, she filed a class action lawsuit against TikTok over the misuse of her image and likeness to sell counterfeit products, and she's pushed for a policy she calls the content clause to protect creators from having their content stolen. That's actually a good fight that helps other creators too, but the flip side is a reputation for being someone you don't want to cross. A hard-nosed operator whose teams send those not-so-good emails when a small vendor steps out of line. The same toughness that built the skinny girl empire and won her legal battles is the toughness that, according to these small business owners, gets turned on people with far less power than her. When you're that aggressive, it lands very differently depending on whether you're aiming up at TikTok or down at a Boca bakery. So let's step back, because when you line all of these complaints up, a genuinely coherent picture emerges, and it's more nuanced than Bethenny is bad. Here's the through line. Every single one of these complaints comes from the same root trait. Bethenny Frankel is a ruthlessly effective self-promoter who is exceptional at making everything serve the Bethenny brand. That trait is exactly why she's worth $80 million, while most housewives are not. It's a genuine superpower. She turned a few sentences about a skinny girl margarita into a beverage empire she sold for a fortune. She turned reality TV fame into a media business. Nobody has monetized the Housewives platform better than Bethenny. Full stop. That relentless brand-first instinct is her greatest strength. But that same instinct is the source of every complaint on this list. When everything serves the brand, a small bakery's cake becomes free content and the bakery itself becomes an afterthought, because the brand doesn't need to credit them. When everything serves the brand, a reality reckoning becomes a way to stay relevant and heroic without personal legal risk. When everything serves the brand, you comment on everything, because content is content, even when you don't know the people involved. And when everything serves the brand, you delete the take that's hurting the brand because consistency matters less than image management. The strength and the complaints are the same trait, just pointed in different directions. And that's what makes Bethenny genuinely fascinating rather than simply good or bad. She is arguably the most business-savvy person the entire Housewives franchise has ever produced. Her success is real, it's earned, and it's the result of a work ethic and an instinct for self-branding that almost nobody can match. But the cost of that instinct, the thing that gets lost when every single interaction is filtered through "how does this serve me?" is the small stuff. The thank you to the bakery, the credit to the jeweler, the willingness to own an unpopular take instead of deleting it. Those are the human courtesies that get sacrificed when the brand always comes first. And that's what these complaints are really about. Not that Bethenny is a monster, but that in her relentless drive to win, the smaller people and the smaller kindnesses sometimes get flattened. Now let me be genuinely fair to Bethenny, because she'd have a real rebuttal to all of this. On the small business stuff, she'd likely argue that these were informal arrangements, that no guarantees was set up front, and that she promotes a huge number of brands and can't tag everyone perfectly every time. And there's some truth to that. When you're tagged in dozens of things a week, some genuinely fall through the cracks without malice. On the reality reckoning, she'd argue, correctly, that using her platform and financial freedom to fight for less powerful cast members is a good thing regardless of whether she's personally suing, and that it's a little rich to criticize someone for advocating for others. On the opinions, she'd say that's literally her job now. She's a commentator, and being willing to say the unpopular thing is the whole point. These are all legitimate defenses, and a fair look at Bethenny has to include them. And it's worth remembering the genuinely positive things Bethenny has done, because they're real too. She's done significant philanthropic work. Her Be Strong initiative has provided disaster relief to a huge number of people around the world, from hurricanes to the war in Ukraine. That's not brand-building fluff. That's real aid to real people in crisis. She's been open and honest about her own difficult childhood and her struggles, which has genuinely helped people feel less alone. And her advocacy, whatever the motive, has actually put pressure on networks to improve conditions for reality stars. So this is not a one-dimensional person. She's someone capable of real generosity and real self-interest, sometimes in the same week. So here's where I land. The complaints about Bethenny Frankel that nobody really talks about are, at their core, complaints about the shadow side of extreme ambition. The small business owners who feel used, the fans who catch her deleting unpopular takes, the vendors who get the cold email. None of these make her a villain. But together, they paint a picture of someone so focused on winning, so skilled at making everything serve her brand, that the small courtesies, the credit, the thank you, the accountability, sometimes get lost. And the reason nobody talks about these complaints is precisely because Bethenny is so good at controlling her own narrative. She's the one holding the microphone. She's the one with $80 million and a podcast and a direct line to the Daily Mail. The bakery owner in Boca doesn't have that, so her side rarely gets heard. And maybe that's the most honest way to understand Bethenny Frankel. She's not the villain her harshest critics claim, and she's not the pure girl boss hero her brand sells either. She's something more human and more complicated. A genuinely brilliant, genuinely generous, genuinely ambitious woman whose greatest strength and greatest flaw are the exact same thing. She will always, always make sure Bethenny wins. That's how she built an empire. And it's also why, every so often, a small business owner, or a fan, or a critic is left feeling like they were just another rung on the ladder. The complaints are real, so is the empire. And the fact that both can be true at once is exactly what makes Bethenny Frankel one of the most fascinating figures reality television has ever produced. What do you think? Are these complaints fair, or is Bethenny just getting held to an impossible standard because she's successful? Pop off in the comments, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!